Good evening, Greg here, burn at both ends, burning on the back end of Tuesday. It's technically Wednesday, 12:11 a.m. Pacific. It is the 28th right now, but we are reflecting on the 27th of November, if that makes sense. I think it does. This evening I want to light up a conversation about leadership, right? So I had my men's team meeting again this week. I had one last week. I did back-to-back. Actually, I'm going to go again next week just because we're having a bunch of very important team meetings. And it's been requested that these are mandatory for the purposes of our team and our division. And so the division is made up of several teams, and each team has a team captain, and then the division has a leader as well. And so tonight's mandatory meeting we were honoring some leaders that had just completed their positions. So that was really cool. And then we were also picking some new leaders for some of the teams. We were breaking up the teams, and we were just deciding on some new leaders. And something kind of came up because we were talking about leadership. We were looking to the current team captains, and we were what we call inspecting them. We were kind of reflecting on kind of where their strengths were, where their weaknesses were, where they could improve. One interesting question was like, if you're leading me and I'm on your team, what is a red flag that I will see that tells me that you're kind of getting off the tracks a little bit? I thought that's a very interesting question. Some things that I like to ask are like, what's easiest for you? What's hardest for you in this leadership, position? Because what's hardest for you is probably the thing that you're going to avoid. What's easiest for you is probably the thing that you're going to, take for granted and not push yourself on. And so those are kind of two interesting spots to look at, in my opinion, as being a leader. But something else came up. There was discussion of one team captain that had been removed from being captain because he wasn't performing. And what came out of the conversation was that, yes, this one person was not doing what they should be doing. They weren't putting the work in, which is critical, right? Being a leader, right? It's not the one thing you do, it's the things you do every day, right? Or at least that's my opinion of being a good leader. It's the things I do every day as I show up every day as a leader. What are those things? And I liken this to parenting as well. But what came out of it was that his team was not supporting him to be a good leader, right? So, and we have this word that you sell someone out, right? So I would be selling you out if I didn't say, hey, listen, as my leader, you're not doing a good job as being my leader. This is where you are doing a good job. This is where we could improve things, right? I'd be selling you out if I just let you kind of fumble through it and not give you that feedback, right? And so that's what came out is that, it was the team. It was, equal blame could be placed on the leader and on the team in this example. And also what I find it can be, and this is my experience, excuse me, get a little drink here. Love the bubbly water. Got my Meyer lemon in there. I can't believe how delicious that is. Anyway, love that. In fact, I love it so much, right? So I have the soda stream thing here. I have it at work. I bring the lemons at work. If there's a day where I find out that I don't have any more lemons at work, I really get upset. It's kind of funny. I actually get upset. I almost consider not drinking the water by itself, but that's silly. Anyway, back to blaming leadership. It can be very easy to blame leadership, and I find this happens a lot. In my experiences at work, right? There's a leadership change, and it's usually tough to handle these things. I should get in the middle there. Tough to handle these things, and usually a big organization has a hard time handling it properly or communicating properly the transition. And then what happens is then the folks on the ground, they just point at leadership and they kind of blame leadership, like you guys don't know what you're doing. But at the same time, in the example I had before with my men's team and this leader and the team that were both equally, but I would take that to almost every situation. It's like, and me being an employee of the company, am I supporting this transition, this leadership transition? Am I supporting my leader? Am I showing up strong? Am I giving good feedback? Am I going the extra mile in the things I'm doing? Am I supporting my other teammates? All these things I think are critical to having a good team, and I think that this is why, and I know for a fact that when investors look at startups and look at investing, they look at the team. And at least this has been my experience in talking with VCs and investors. It's the team, because the idea is most likely going to change. I mean, it can change a little bit or it can change a lot. But the team remains. The team, and can the team withstand that turmoil, that pivot? Because sometimes that pivot can be uncomfortable. Sometimes someone's going to punch you right in the face and just say, that's not going to work. But that thing over there in the corner that you threw away 3 months ago that you didn't think worked, I want to give that a try. And that might be, this idea that someone else had or you thought was a bad idea and you love your idea, and and so it's the team. The team is critical, and the team works well when you have kind of both the leadership and kind of the team members supporting each other to win. And I find that this is what creates good culture, right? This is what creates really strong companies, really strong teams, really successful teams. And I find that in my experience, this is definitely where I've struggled. I can say for a fact that there have been times when I've been on a team and I have not supported the leader. This is something that I'm certainly working on. It's been a while since I've been in that space, so that I've been working on that for quite some time now. But then also as a leader, really kind of involving the team in the decision making and in the process and in building like kind of how the team operates, kind of the game plan, the rules, the standards, the processes that we go through, right? So and actually I'm doing that right now, right? So in my 9 to 5, I'm working with the team to develop a resource management process through which we all contribute, and the result is that we have a good understanding as to what's how resources are being applied to the things that need to happen next week, next month, next quarter, next year, so on and so forth. And have a way to pivot hard when an emergency pops up today or tomorrow that we need to handle right away. And how do we communicate that through the team so that way people know, Johnny's not going to be able to do my thing today because that thing broke, and Ed really needs that for his experiment next week, and so Johnny's going to help Ed this week, and my thing's going to be kicked out 2 weeks, whatever, right? And just how to communicate that, how to communicate that information to the team so that way people are informed, people understand why this is happening, because someday it's going to be me that gets the priority, right? Someday it's going to be, everyone's going to get their turn in the priority seat, right? And as long as we all understand that and we all communicate that, my understanding, and this is more the feedback I'm getting from the team. This is not I'm not sitting, alone, in my office figuring this stuff out. I pretty much interview everyone on the team, and I'm just taking their feedback, and now I'm just giving them what they asked for. And the hard part now is working through the process, because there are going to be kinks in the process and things are not going to work, and that can be uncomfortable. But anyway, so involving them in the process, and so just and back to easy to blame leadership, right? It's it's lonely at the top. That's a true saying, right? It's easy to point up there and go, they messed it up. Couldn't have been me, right? And then another thing came up today. So today was Giving Tuesday. So Ashanti, who runs the Ever Forward Club, is my first Fundraise Up customer, and we did our best to get him ready for Giving Tuesday, and it was totally my fault how we tried to do this kind of like last minute. We tried to really get things up and running like Sunday and Monday, and we were having some challenges technically, and we were trying to get our tech support to help, and it was just, we didn't have enough time to test. And the lesson that I picked up from it was, first of all, this is completely my responsibility. It's my fault so pretty much what happened was certain aspects of his donation button weren't working. One button worked, but the other one didn't. And there's a good chance he missed out on some donations today. We don't really, it might be impossible to tell, really. But he was definitely frustrated. I was disappointed in myself and in our startup that we couldn't deliver for him. Trying to figure out the root cause of it may or may not be, worth it. Why the button didn't work. Just because sometimes, like you get a lot of hands in the pot and you don't really know which hand, kind of messed it up. right? And anyway, but the bottom line is that I take full responsibility for it, and we should have tested more. And so this is a huge lesson learned for me. I want to make it up to Ashanti. I think he'll give us that opportunity, because I do know that great things can happen, because a few donations did come through, and I checked them, and the fees that he paid for the donations were like 0.6% fees, which is fantastic for a nonprofit to pay. That's essentially free donations. I guess what else would they be? Free donations. So anyway, but the key thing is the fees to pay, right? And what we find is a lot of the donors are happy to pay the fees if you give them the option, and we always give them the option. So that was like kind of the good part, is that some donations came through. A lot of folks paid the fees. That's really good for Ashanti. I feel bad about the button not working. We're going to fix that. And the bottom line is I'm going to take full responsibility for it. And lesson learned is we need to do more testing before we go live. We need to have a way to really make sure that every aspect of the Fundraise Up widget is working, and it's the way the customer wants to see it. And I think, and I have to say, I'm really pulling a lot from Gary Vee on this one. I really embrace when he says things like, when I'm the leader, it's all my responsibility. It's all my fault if things don't go wrong. And mistakes are amazing opportunities to learn and to improve and to do better. And so that's where we're at. So I'm going to call Ashanti tomorrow. I'm going to deliver this message. We're going to fix his button so that way he can collect donations. We're going to make sure we iron out all the little kinks in there. And lesson learned for the next customer is let's make sure that we do adequate testing before we go live. And I think that's simple, because because with Ashanti, since I didn't know that, I wasn't able to mention that and say that out loud ahead of time, right? Hey, we're going to need a full week or 3 day or whatever it is, right? I mean, maybe it's not even a full week. Maybe it's just a couple of days. I think that's all we needed. We probably just needed an extra 2 or 3 days to get this working 100%. Because we know that our widget works. I mean, we just went past the $1 million mark. So we've collected so far $1 million in donations so far, which is awesome. And so obviously, and we have some big customers that love the product. So we know it works. It's just a matter of just whatever, it just wasn't configured properly. And so we'll have to figure that out. And so anyway, so why did I go on this little rant there about Ashanti? Because I was talking about blaming leadership. And so the way I see it is that it's easy to blame Peter, who's the co-founder, and maybe the CEO. It's easy to blame him. I mean, for me, right? I could totally just, geez, that was just Peter's fault. His widget's not working, right? But for me, it's being a good team member. I want to take the blame for this. I want to shield Peter from the blame. I don't think he deserves it. It's me. I need to get my act together on how I onboard somebody, so that way we have enough time to get it integrated. We can test, we can schedule time with the tech support at Fundraise Up, make sure everything's working right, and then go, okay, now you can go live with your donation button. And that's what I fully plan to do. So, and I have to admit, when I first got the text messages from Ashanti today, I was really down on myself. I'm like, oh man, because he's a good friend of mine. I really want this to work for him. I don't want it to, muddy our relationship. I don't think it's going to. Both very honorable men, but I was searching for the best way to handle it, and I listened to a lot of Gary Vee on the way to the men's meeting and back. It was out in Concord or something, and so it's quite going out there during rush hour took about an hour, and so coming back was about 35 minutes. So I had about an hour and a half of just pure Gary Vee in the car. Really psyched me up, and typically in one of his keynotes you'll hear that piece about taking full responsibility, about being punched in the face, and mistakes are an opportunity to learn, and kind of like that content, and I really enjoy that content. So it just kind of got those thoughts in my head, and then as I walked in the door tonight, I was like, you know what, the way to do this is completely my fault. Done. End of story. Ashanti will make it up, and and just moving forward and getting better and sharpening our swords and all that business. So what I thought was going to be a short post tonight turned out to be a long post, but I don't know, I find it really helps me to talk this stuff out, like personally, and yeah. So, and this is what it's like being in a startup. Being, you got a product, you're trying to do your best to impress the customer and to deliver to the customer, and we're not always going to get there. There are going to be mistakes, and so this is a critical point, a critical like pivot point in the process. It's like, it's easy to pivot to, hey, F you messed it up, or just put some blame just somewhere. Oh yeah, it was the tech support guy that messed it up, or like for example, Ashanti has Squarespace as his website design and host. It was Squarespace's fault, or whatever, or it was your donor, you didn't click on the right link. Like you could kind of go anywhere with it. But I think like the most honorable place to go is just me to take the responsibility. Kind of just you know why? Because it just ends the conversation. It's like, done, my fault. How do we fix this? And then we just get right into solution. And I really love that, because if you're fishing for blame elsewhere, that's an infinite thing to do, right? You can never stop that. And then at the end of the day, what are you left holding? Nothing, right? Nothing. So totally my fault. And also I'm thinking about some other customers that are getting ready to sign up that, okay, now I'm prepping for them too, because I'm also thinking about them as well, thinking about Ashanti. And so this experience is like going to be like burned into my memory. And so it's actually, I feel bad, but at the same time I'm excited because, I'm learning, and now I can do it better next time. And now I have some great work to do with Ashanti, and I've got some great work to do with our coming customers. So, yeah, this is the life of an entrepreneur, right? So this is like this loneliness kind of part of it is just, when you take responsibility, everyone else kind of goes away, right? It's just left standing there. So, yeah, and emotionally it can be a little tough, right? It can be a little shot to the ego. Right, kind of walking tall. Hey, we got this great product, and all of a sudden you kind of, right, you get like sideswiped with something like this, and so just nice and grounding, little taste of reality, little taste of not everything's roses and whatever that means. I think it's not everything smells like roses or something like that. Sometimes it smells like farts. So I'll end on the fart comment right there. So this channel is all about my journey as an aspiring entrepreneur. This is the things I'm going through, my 9 to 5, my side hustle, working with my family, my kids, my wife, just the whole thing. So I am going to get to bed. So subscribe if you like what you hear. Comment down below. Would love to hear what you have to say. And and if I can help you out in any way, please ask. I'll do my best. Definitely want to be of service. The beat in the background is G Money, is my alter ego. I write these beats. I play the drums. I put them on SoundCloud. If you like that kind of thing, you can check them out. And other than that, check out the description. There's some great links down there. And I will end there. So I'm psyched to get some rest. You get some rest as well. Wake up tomorrow or today in a couple hours. Light it up, crush it, do great things, inspire folks. And I will catch you on Ents in the morning.